Jonathan Marshall does a great job covering hoops now out in Texas. Joins us for a couple moments. Our first time actually connecting this season. We did a lot last year to close out the year, and always good to talk to you, my friend. How you been?
I'm just living a dream now here in Texas, man. How's it going?
Everything is going well, unless if you're a Sixers fan. And I'll tell you, it's, there's I want to get your thoughts on a couple things first. Forget about the poor start, because it's a hideous product to watch right now, and they're not even competitive. But have you ever seen a team turn over the ball as frequently and as consistently night in and night out as they do? Do you equate that just to being guys that you really don't have a bunch of NBA players on the team, or is it a young team, or is it just a team that's just flat out sloppy?
I mean, Q, at the beginning of the year, I was just looking at this roster, and I said, this before they even played a single preseason game, I just said, this might quite possibly be the worst professional basketball team I've seen at the NBA level. I mean, when you look at the point guard position specifically, when it comes to taking care of the ball, you look at guys like T.J. McConnell, who, if it wasn't for the Sixers, he wouldn't even probably be in the league, let alone getting an opportunity to start. Isaiah Cannon, although he is a streaky streak and get hot, not an ideal point guard, for a starting, for an NBA team to start. So when you look at that, I think the point guard is the biggest issue out of everything on this roster. And I think it's, doing an injustice to the big men such as Nerlens Noel and Joel Okafor, guys who need a capable point guard to set them up offensively. These aren't talented guys from the perimeter to begin with. So when you have guys who need that point guard to set them up, especially with the Nerlens Noel, you're going to see the sloppiness. Yeah,
and last night again, I don't want to say the score is not indicative of the contest, because they still got blown out by about 20 or so, and basketball, it's a game of runs here and there. But you're right. I mean, you look at Cannon, has 24 last night. He's so inconsistent night in and night out. But the bottom line, he has 0 assists. He averages around 2 assists a game and a turnover. McConnell's not the answer, whether he's coming off the bench or not. So they don't have a true point guard. And I think what happens is when you don't have a true point guard, you are going to rely much more on taking shots from beyond the arc and kind of force feeding the ball inside low to Okafor. And Noel didn't play last night. But I look at Okafor, even last night, kind of playing soft defense, even at times with Noel out there. They have defensive laps. I mean, you can talk about having all the big men you want out there, and you can talk about if or when Embiid comes back, and if it ever happens, if the kid ever steps on the floor in a regular season game and gets a minute, then we can talk about it. But you basically have one-dimensional players on this team. There are guys that have limitations, and that's why they're sitting at 1-26. I mean, at the end of the day, when you watch this, do you think it's going to get much more worse, or can they at least play competitive basketball? I'm not even talking about winning 10 or 15 games this year.
I mean, I think losing by 50 to San Antonio, I think that's the worst it'll get. So I don't think we'll be seeing those type of affairs, but what you're getting is what you're going to get for the foreseeable future. I mean, you talked about the defensive lapses. Offensively, it's pretty sloppy. I mean, with any team, you try to look at one strength. With this team, I can't really look at and say, okay, at least we have the defense, at least we have the shooting, at least we have guys who can break their man down and create for themselves and others. They don't have any of it. They lack in all phases of the game. And when you're talking about playing on a nightly basis, especially in today's league where the guard play is so outstanding, and even the big guys are just, from Karl Anthony Towns all the way up to a Blake Griffin, they're doing everything nowadays. This team isn't capable to handle things offensively. And on the defensive end, I mean, they're incapable to handle that either, especially at the point guard spot. And
yeah.
Down low, you mentioned, Okafor's defensive liabilities when Nerlens Noel is your only main guy defensively. I mean, you're going to struggle on a nightly basis. But when you compare it to a Golden State or a San Antonio, teams who can, spread you out, teams who are fundamentally sound, teams whose second unit can destroy your first unit, I mean, it's pretty bad, and it's likely they may go the rest of this calendar year without a victory. I mean, it's very likely.
And they bring in Colangelo, who I think ultimately, you can read between the lines, is spelling the end for the Hinkie experiment, to bring in a guy that has that pedigree and that basketball savvy, like a guy like Jerry Colangelo. And conversely, there is talk about bringing on Mike DAntoni, and you know how my thoughts on him over the years, especially when he was with the Knicks. Now, look, his whole 7 seconds or less up and down the floor with the Suns, it worked. Their teams hit a lot of three-pointers in transition, but you don't have the players for this type of style. So I think if they bring in DAntoni and he has any input on the offensive scheme or the half-court offense, whatever they're running up and down the floor, A, they don't have the parts, and B, I actually think it's going to be a drawback and negative for the bigs because I don't see them running up and down the floor like that. And they really can't get their post position at all.
No, I agree. I mean, in Phoenix, he had Steve Nash, Sean Marion, Amari Simon. These are all-star players. Nash is a Hall of Famer. So you're looking at this roster, are you counting on T.J. McConnell, Isaiah Cannon, and Kendall Marshall to be the ringleaders of this, offensive scheme that DAntoni may try to put in? So I don't see it. Okafor doesn't strike me as a big man who wants to run up and down the court. So pound for pound, this team isn't prepared for it. You're talking about bringing a guy like DAntoni. I look at it on the flip side of things. I'm not really feeling it for Brett Brown. I feel like, he's not getting a fair shake in this at all.
No.
As far as developmental-wise, I think he's done a great job developing. You're talking about guys like Robert Covington, Jeremiah Grant, even Nerlens Noel. They've grown tremendously under Brett Brown. So to undermine sort of that's adding a second voice to an already messed up situation. So you got to wonder what the psyche is going to be with these young guys who are already dealing with the outside voices. So you're bringing in a DAntoni. What does that say about Brett Brown in that situation? So I think it's just toxic mentally for these young players, especially.
That's a great point. Conversely, you go from the worst team in the NBA to we might be looking at history here with the Golden State Warriors. They had the little blimp in the road, but now they've won 9 out of their last 10. I mean, any night you can look at their team up and down, and you're talking about all-star caliber players. You're talking about a historically wonderful, brilliant shooter in Curry. They've got guys, Green. They've got Thompson. They got guys that can run the floor. They can rebound. When I look at Golden State, is this more of a product of the greatness that is Golden State, that they've been able to come out of the gate with this type of 26-game run of 25-1, or is this there's not a lot of good teams in the NBA, and there's not a lot of good teams in the Western Conference? You can throw Oklahoma City and the Spurs, but the Clippers have been struggling.
I have to give credit to Golden State. I mean, this is greatness. But I just think specifically there aren't a lot of NBA teams prepared to defend this type of offense. Now, teams can drop 100 points, but are you prepared to defend every single minute? Because that's what you have to do. I mean, I'm watching the Phoenix Golden State game last night. They're dropping 100 in the third quarter.
Yep.
I'm like, are teams prepared to not only score 100 points, but you have to be prepared to defend this team. So when Draymond Green, who can be a 5-man, when he's grabbing a rebound, he's immediately bringing that ball up the court.
Yep.
That's putting pressure on the defense. I don't know if teams are ready to handle that defensive pressure that Golden State's putting on you. It's the small ball wave. A lot of people are mixed on that, but Golden State is showing you it's trouble for the opposition. Teams just aren't built. Players aren't built to be tuned in, to be dialed in defensively. Every second of the game, you have to be dialed in, because any minute, whether it's a Steph Curry, a Klay Thompson, a Harrison Barnes, a Iguodala, a Draymond Green, even a Brandon Rush, a Sean Livingston, I mean, these guys are capable of doing more than one thing out there on the court, and that's what makes them so dangerous.
And just to piggyback that before we move on, when you look at all those guys, whether they're bench players or the starting 5, it seems any one of those guys can hit a 3. So when they get in transition, it doesn't matter. I mean, they'll go on a run. They can be down by 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. They rely on that 3-point shot. They'll give up 2 quickly, but if they drain 8 out of 10 every night, or 10 out of 15, or 17 out of 34 for 50%, I mean, that's to me, that speaks volumes of just, the analysis of looking at personnel going forward and drafting players and free agents. Guys, when you buy into that system and you can shoot the rock like that, you can shoot the 3, you can space and spread the floor out, it makes them that much more dangerous. I want to get your thoughts on a couple more things in the Western Conference. The Houston Rockets, there were some conflicting reports out there that Dwight Howard is not happy in Houston. I mean, it seems a guy like Dwight Howard, all the talent in the world, even though you can argue at times just overrated, a little soft, but it seems like this guy's never happy. It doesn't matter where it is, whether it was with Orlando, whether it was with the Lakers or Houston. Is it me, or is Dwight Howard just starting to kind of get that rap, a guy that could have been a great one, but just doesn't have it between the ears?
I mean, it's no coincidence that you mentioned it, Orlando. You saw the situation with Stan Van Gundy. You saw the situation in L.A., now in Houston. So, I mean, I agree. Dwight Howard, looking at a guy physically, one of the more physically gifted NBA players we've seen. I mean, ever. I mean, there's Will Chamberlain, Karl Malone, David Robinson, LeBron James, but, Dwight Howard is right up there with all those guys physically. And he's never been able to develop any type of offensive game. Defensively, he is a force. But other than that, you have to provide more with what your physical gifts show us. And he's really lacked in that area. And mentally, he's lagging as well. I've never really looked at Dwight as a leader. And it's showing itself right now in Houston with their issues, going back to the firing of their head coach earlier this year. So on the court, off the court, he really hasn't shown himself to be that guy who really wants to take charge and really, be accountable for himself and his teammates.
I look at him and he strikes me as a guy that just he's not comfortable playing second fiddle, whether it was in Orlando or the Lakers, and now Houston with James Harden, who's averaging close to 26, and Howard is right around 17, 18. I should say, 12 or 13, and Harden is right around 30. Pardon me. So I don't know if it's shot selection. I don't know if it's if they're not involving him that much in the offense from here and there. But you have a guy in Harden who's a streaky shooter that can take over a game, kind of like a Westbrook, and it just seems like Dwight Howard has an issue being second fiddle. Let's switch gears again. Jonathan Marshall does a great job covering the NBA. Joins us for a couple minutes. San Antonio Spurs. I know you're familiar with that team. Hey, look, every year it just seems like they just go about their business. They go about their business. What makes this year's Spurs team so special?
I would say Kawhi Leonard. There's a guy who, coming out of San Diego State, was very limited offensively. Defensively, they saw something special in this guy. But over the years, we sort of seen Popovich wanting this guy to take charge. And we saw how he handled playing LeBron in the NBA Finals. Let's not forget, Kawhi Leonard is a Finals MVP, so he is legitimate. So I just think him finally taking over that role, being that guy, even though they have Duncan, even though they have Ginobili, even though they have Parker, even though they signed LaMarcus Aldridge, Kawhi Leonard is finally being that guy taking over offensively. As far as two-way players, he is the best in the game from what I've seen from him and across the league. So I think Kawhi Leonard making that jump because they need him to make that jump as Ginobili and Parker and Duncan are getting older. But also kudos to Tim Duncan, who at 38, 39, still getting it done, still playing at an all-star level. Ginobili's still getting it done. Parker's still getting it done. So just having that natural evolution of players growing up within that Spurs system, nothing changes. There's that consistency in the front office, consistency on the bench for the top, and the consistency of players developing in that system. And adding to that with guys like David West and LaMarcus Aldridge, who also buy in to what Popovich is trying to get done.
Yeah, and I was kind of going to ask you kind of a number two, a part B to that. With the Spurs, I mean, when you look at guys like Mills and Green and Simmons, guys that either can start or come off the bench, however Pop wants to use these guys in rotation, they've got some depth. Let me ask you this. Out of San Antonio, is there going to be a time this year where the San Antonio Spurs are better than the Golden State Warriors?
I would say yes. I would say later, post All-Star break. I think post All-Star break we'll really get to see San Antonio in their top form because LaMarcus Aldridge still hasn't really gotten off yet. I think he's still trying to learn how to play within that system because it used to be in Portland, just posting up, giving me the ball and go to work. But now San Antonio, constant ball movement. He has to find his way within that system, playing with a guy like Tim Duncan. But I think as the season goes along, I think San Antonio, they're legitimate. In the 7-game series, I think San Antonio has the best chance at beating Golden State.
Porzingis came out like gangbusters, proved that you can be a tough European player, not a soft European player. I mean, I think he's just naturally gifted and talented, understands he's got great vision, understands where he is on the floor, can shoot, can attack the rim. And then conversely, Russell started off slow with the Lakers and now starting to pick it up a little bit. So you got one that's kind of hitting the wall in Porzingis, and then you got Russell starting to pick it up a little bit. When are we going to see, as the season progresses, when can we have the conversation and say, okay, this is the Porzingis that we thought he was going to be, and this is the Russell that the Lakers thought he was going to be when they drafted him?
Well, I think to start with Russell, I think this is a guy that we can expect to see. Because coming out of Iowa State, one of the more gifted passers that, and a lot of people are saying he's the most gifted passer they've seen since Jason Kidd coming out of college. High praise. So he is a natural playmaker. And let's be honest, playing in L.A., playing alongside Kobe Bryant. Not an easy situation, but I think DAngelo is starting to learn the ups and downs, how to handle things, how to handle this professional level. There's going to be situations. He handled the benching by Byron Scott pretty well, him and Julius Randle. So I think he's starting to learn, starting to come within himself. So I think from here on out, DAngelo Russell is going to find his groove at the NBA level. Now, when it comes with Porzingis, I mean, so you talked about it. I mean, he's proven himself to be able to handle it physically and mentally. Now he has, hit that wall, which is expected.
Sure.
But at 7 foot, the skills that he's bringing. But what I love most about him is that he's fearless. And with that fearlessness, he'll be fine in this league because these vets in the league can sense fear a mile away. And we've seen plenty of rookies, especially those that come overseas, not be able to handle it. Darko Milicic comes to mind. So Porzingis is a guy who he has no fear. And as he gets acclimated to the daily grind of the NBA, he gets stronger. He'll be fine. He has too many skills. He has a great mentality. He has been bumping under pressure under the New York lights. He's embracing it. I just like what I see from him mentally more than anything.
Last one before I let you get out of here. Ben Simmons. I know a lot of scouts, a lot of NBA teams drooling over this gifted player from Australia. The one thing that stands out to me when I watch him play, and I've been watching him play closely this year on a really bad LSU team, is his court vision. And I'm going back to, I'm talking about guys like Bird, Magic, Jerry West, LeBron to some extent. He just naturally, his vision on the court is really second to none. What have you seen from this kid that's going to make him so special when the time comes for him to go into the NBA?
I mean, we talk about what Golden State's doing, right, with their 5-man lineup of everybody doing everything. I think Ben Simmons is like just the perfect player for that type of system. I mean, you can sort of have a smaller lineup, though he's not a natural 5. He's 6'10". He's built solidly, so you can have a Ben Simmons at the 5, running point guard. He can be a point center, so to speak. So I mean, that's what I love about him. Physically, he's been able to handle the college game. I mean, what you look for in freshmen is, the talent's always going to be there, but how do they transition? How do they handle playing against sophomores, juniors, and seniors? And he hasn't buckled under the spotlight. He hasn't buckled under the pressure. And his savviness. I mean, his basketball savviness is at a professional level already. Like you mentioned, his vision. His vision is for anybody, whether you're a 6-foot guy or a 6'8", 6'10" guy. I mean, that's special. And the fact that he's 6'10", I mean, that's Magic Johnson territory right there. So when I see him, I mean, LeBron James comes to mind, and also think of a more talented Draymond Green. I'm talking about a big guy who can pretty much do it all. So Ben Simmons is a real deal, and if Philly gets him, he would automatically be their best ball handler and best passer.
Jonathan Marshall doing a great job covering college hoops as well as the NBA. Follow him on Twitter, ARN_John Marshall. Always a pleasure, my friend. We'll chit-chat next week. Enjoy the games. And, it's interesting because we didn't really get into any LeBron talk. We'll hold that for next week because I think this is LeBron's going to have a sneaky, solid year this year. Maybe they go on that one run there, the Cavaliers. So I always appreciate a couple moments.
I appreciate it, Q. Thank you.
All right, you got it. Jonathan Marshall, great job as always.